once we begin to disidentify from thoughts, we have made some space in experience. Sometimes this feels like experiencing a sort of flow state, or a spaciousness, or a knowingness within consciousness. It feels like we're not pushed around by our thoughts so frequently. We recognize a thought as a thought. We recognize that those thoughts aren't actually about me. They're not actually about anything. And so we feel a sort of relaxation into the beingness itself. Sometimes we'll interpret this as relaxing into the sense of self, but not a mental self, not a cognitive or conceptual self. Something that feels more like an infinite self. So this is an important step in the unbinding process, to be able to recognize this space, this freedom from endlessly binding into the next thought and the next thought. But it's not the end of the process. Once we are able to disidentify from thought in this way, recognize this spaciousness within consciousness, which is very valuable and often comes with a big release, a feeling of a lot of weight that you've been carrying is suddenly nowhere to be found. So it is a big deal, really. It's important to have this initial insight. But from here, if we pay attention, we'll notice that we still tend to disassociate. This means disassociate from the senses, from the non-dual experience. Non-dual being the more primary experience of appearance, or more primary experience of reality, than the mind-identified world of disassociation and thought. So to become free from thought is really the beginning of that spectrum of unbinding and closing the gap of the disassociation. When we really close that gap of disassociation, then there is no separation anymore. There's no sense of someone apart from anything. And then we are able to inhabit the senses fully, as they actually are. This feels, in one way of speaking, very grounded. It feels very quiet, peaceful. But it's not a mental space. It's not a cognitive space. It's a very physical, in the sense of body sense, in the sense of the sensation of aliveness as a physical body. It's empty of any inherent existence, but it's rather full in the sense of it being rather intimate. There's the release from having to go anywhere, the release from having to do anything, the release from having to access the mind to know where you stand, the release from having to have a model of your life or reality or spirituality anymore. All of those fall by the wayside when we're finally grounded in the empty fullness of the senses and the intimate, the thoroughly intimate, but ineffable, indescribable. So the way to do this, the way to practice this, which will take you directly through shadow material at all levels, is to put your attention in the body sense. Now, at first, we may think we're doing that, but we're really putting our attention in a reflection of the body sense. It'll still be mind stuff, and this is very easy to overlook for some time. But it doesn't mean it's not valuable to keep trying, to keep at it. So just gently redirect your attention into the body sense. Don't worry about anything conceptual here, whether there's a body or not, or descriptions of the sense, or a method, or how to do it. It doesn't really matter the method. What matters is the result. What matters is feeling the pure sense. The pure sense before it becomes an emotion, before it becomes a label, story, narrative, visual image. So go right to it, because it is right there, always. Now, I'll tell you that this is not as easy as it sounds. It's very easy to think you're doing it and you're not. But even once you recognize the difference between the reflected world of mind and its version of everything, which is conceptual and sometimes non-conceptual or image-based, and the pure sense. Even once you know that difference, it can be rather challenging, mostly because of habituation. The habit to disassociate, to bounce away from that pure sense and into the mind is very strong at first. But give it some time. Just sit. Feel. Don't do anything more. Don't make stories about it. Don't try to turn it into anything. Don't try to spiritualize it. Don't try to compare it to your metaphysical models. Just let your attention rest there. And notice when it wants to run away, or you want to run away. Totally normal. And it will be kind of hot at times, especially when you're triggered about something, or there's life circumstances that are stressful, challenging, etc. The mind will come up with all kinds of stories about why you need to be thinking about something. None of that is about anything that it says it's about. It's really just about running from this sensation. So go back to the sensation. You will learn to trust it by staying with it. You will go through a lot with this simple act or this simple practice. But at some point it will become quiet, very grounded, very clear. Grounded simply meaning primary, so very primary, intimate, nowhere to go, no tendency to run anymore, no need to run anymore, an understanding that goes beyond concept, beyond spirituality, beyond anything in the temporal world. It's a very, very profound and deep insight. That's what I mean by grounded. So this is a simple practice, and a practice that can take you a long way beyond an initial insight, an initial awakening, beyond non-conceptuality. It will take you right through the shadow. And that's not as easy as it sounds, but you can reattune to this again and again. Trust it. Be patient. And be willing to feel everything you're going to need to feel. Stay with that very, very simple indescribable, but undeniable sense. The pure sense. It's neither here nor there, inside nor outside. Has no specific quality. But it doesn't recoil, actually. It doesn't run from anything. It doesn't avoid. It doesn't conceptualize. It has no need, has no preference, has no fear. And you carry it with you all the time. It's always there.